Good evening, welcome to the Goffstown Planning Board. This is our October 26th meeting. This is a scheduled meeting. We start off with our introductions. We'll start with Joanne.
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
Scott Ozana, Town Engineer.
Jim Craig, Select Board Rep. Philip Devanza.
Tim Redmond.
Kimberly Peace.
Brian Mazer.
Colleen Mayu.
David Pierce.
What's this, is Barbara coming or not coming?
If she is coming, she'll be late, but
Okay.
it sounded like she wasn't going to
All right,
make
so
it.
David, you'll be voting. Okay, Joanne, first item on our agenda is,
The first item,
no, approval of correction of the minutes from October the 12th, under action and correspondence.
Motion to approve.
I have a comment.
Please.
Page 14 of 17, under CIP, it says, Kimberly Peace said this was a group effort. They rang to clarify the policies. I'm not sure what that sentence should have been. They wanted to clarify the policies? Maybe that's...
Well, put the word in you think is correct, because you said it.
Let's see, yeah, I can't remember. But I guess let's change it to, they wanted to clarify the policies. Yes.
Okay.
That's the way it should read, yeah.
Okay, anything else from anybody else? Phil, how about your motion with the,
That it includes any corrections.
thank you. Anybody want a second to the
Second.
motion? Brian? Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Jim?
Yes.
Abstention?
Yeah.
Thank you. So what's request number 2, Joanne?
the request is to continue, remember the project
Map 5
down near
lots?
Center Street, map 5, lot 26. They were building a landscaping business in the rear, and they had a new barn recently built. This is their last continuance. I did receive the plans today for the meeting of November 16th, so that this will be the last one. They just, they didn't get the test pits done in time, which held up everything else, so.
Well, I am looking at my packet from August the 10th, when we first heard this application. It's October, we're gonna be going into November with this.
November 16th,
So, did they waive the 65-day clause?
they did.
Do we want to require them to renotice? Board decision. It's been a long time, and we've had 4 continuances now?
3 or 4, I don't remember exactly. It's been about 3, I think.
So what's the board, does the board think we should renotice this? Or, because, you know, people do come to meetings that are neighbors, and, Phil?
Do you recall if there were people, members of the public here for these public hearings when they went in? And is there anybody here tonight for it?
Okay, what was that, what did I tell you the date was? August the 10th?
I don't remember anymore.
Could pull the audience while you're looking at it.
Hold the audience, anybody here for the application?
For map 5 lot 26 at
No,
431
They all look like
Street.
Eversource people, 'cause I think I've seen them.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good, thank you.
This is Eversource.
I don't recall an abutter for that property. There were butters when they had been here 2 years earlier for a different project.
Okay. Just looking at my notes. 810. St. A's.
Just to remind me what the process, so we send the notices and then we bill the applicant, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Kimberly.
Do you know about how many abutters there would need to be renoticed? Because I think it's been a long time. I kind of feel like they should be renoticed, even though we haven't had a lot of public attention.
It's minimal.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
small.
don't think it's very many.
Okay, I would be in favor of renoticing.
Yeah, I am too.
Well, we opened the public hearing at 8:35 and closed it at 8:35 that, which means nobody came to the meeting to speak against them.
Right, yeah, okay.
And then we continued it on the 14th. We continued it on the 28th. All right. So, do we feel that we should burden them with renoticing because no one came to the first one?
I don't have a problem with not doing it. I mean, if there were people here that had to come back, it would be different.
The agenda is posted in 2 places, and it's on our website. So I guess if someone were interested, they could look. But, you know, we don't send them anything.
Okay.
It's unfortunate we don't have everyone's email to just send out
Right.
an email blast.
All right, so I'll open the floor to discussion. We have 2 people to feel that it should be renoticed. I am not in agreement of renoticing it. Phil, you are not?
No.
Colleen?
I don't see a need in this
David?
case.
No need.
Okay, so just by a straw poll, we will not require them to renotice. Not-
Okay.
So Joanne, tell them that next meeting they have to be here or they will be required to renotice.
Okay, they will be here because they've already submitted their packet.
So who wants to make a motion to grant the request?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion has been made to grant the request to be continued to, what's the date, Joanne?
November 16th.
11, 15? 16?
16.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. New business, Joanne.
New business is Eversource. They are here for a conditional use permit to work on the line, which is called F-162. They are working within the Wetland Conservation District, so that's why the conditional use permit is required. They will be replacing, I believe it's like 46 poles. That's not right. 43 poles. The project begins at the new Boston Goffstown Town Line and ends at the Gregg Substation off of Mast Road. The wetlands were delineated in April of 2023. The wooden poles will be replaced with weathered steel poles, and some will be taller by about 15 feet. The temporary impact to the wetlands is a disturbance of 98,077 square feet, and they are also using approximately 27,029 square feet of temporary upland matting within the wetland buffers. So you will have, there's a conditional use permit. The answers to the conditional use permit criteria can be found in their letter, which is dated 9/27, which was included in the packet that was mailed to you. And they have also submitted the functions and values report. That was also included in the packet.
As usual, very thorough.
The Conservation Commission met last night, and there's a memo that was left here for you. They voted unanimously to recommend to grant the CUP, and they just said, the same thing, New Hampshire DES best management practices shall be followed, and also place the geotech fabric under the proposed matting to help protect the wetlands.
Okay. Does anybody from the table have any questions for Joanne? Or staff, being Scott, our town engineer? No questions? We'll ask the applicants to come forward and please state your names for the records. Slowly, speak quietly or loudly, because we don't have a recording secretary tonight. She's going to have to work from the tape, so be clear and succinct.
I'm Lindsay White with GZA Geoenvironmental.
And Travis Yando, Eversource Licensing and Permitting.
Travis, just for the record, spell your last name.
Yando, Y-A-N-D-O-W.
Thank you, Travis. And you're Eversource.
Yep.
Okay, so please begin.
So as mentioned, we are looking for a conditional use permit application. Eversource is proposing to rebuild the existing F-162 transmission line. This line's about 4.5 miles in length and crosses through portions of Ware, New Boston, and into Goffstown. Majority of the line is in the town of Goffstown. The total project will replace about 60 utility poles. 43 are located in the town of Goffstown. The project requires impacts to the Wetlands and Conservation Overlay District for impacts for access and work paths around the utility poles. And consistent with prior Eversource projects, they will be using temporary timber matting where work is located in wetlands to minimize and prevent the rutting compaction to the wetland systems. Otherwise, in uplands, the typical practice, unless specified on the plans for upland matting, would be to grade and add stone and gravel for the access to allow for future maintenance to access the poles in the event of emergency. The work pads are scoped at about 100 feet by 100 feet, but would be reduced in size after the project is completed to about 30 feet by 60 feet to allow for bucket truck access. So that the gravel will be reduced to that 30 by 60 foot size. Once the work is completed, timber matting would be removed and the temporarily impacted wetland areas would be restored by seeding and adding mulch.
So if you're gonna have matting crossing the wetlands to get to these pole sites, and you're gonna mat the pole sites, and when you're done, after the poles are set, you're gonna remove the matting and install gravel.
The gravel is in uplands only, not in wetlands.
All right, because you didn't make that clear. Good. Anybody else, questions? This is sort of a common occurrence with you folks lately. We see you on a regular basis.
So this line luckily is a full rebuild, so we should be not having to come back to this particular line, would be the goal.
We have the usual comments that came in on prior projects about stone walls. You're going to respect stone walls because they are boundary walls
Yep, all stone
covered
walls.
under state statute.
Yep, all stone walls, even if we're not certain if they're property boundary or not, they are treated the same, and they are bridge matted over unless there's an agreement made with the property owner specifically to allow for dismantlement and repair.
Now, do you show any access to this construction site crossing private property, or do you access it from the road ends where it crosses town roads?
Most of the access is scoped for in right-of-way, so coming off of town roads into the right-of-way. If we show off right-of-way access, those are only utilized if there's an agreement in place between the property owner and Eversource.
Joanne, I would want you to make sure that you have copies of those agreements, if they do use them, so that they're on the record and not just stated and not actually recorded with the planning department.
I will mention we have two other folks from Eversource from our project services, Ed and Jordan. They're the ones that actually get those agreements and work with the butters. So if there's any questions directed towards them, they're also here to support. But
Sort of,
it shouldn't be an issue getting those agreements to the planning board.
Could you come up, if you're going to speak, come up and state your name for the record? Once again, slowly.
Make sure you send them to me. Thank you.
Ed Kinzer, K-I-N-Z-E-R, Senior Project Manager, Project Services.
Jordan McCleskey, last name is M-C-C-L-U-S-K-E-Y, I'm Project Manager with Project Services.
Thank you both.
So essentially, our scope would be to, engage property owners. Our real estate division will identify, along with engineering, certain access points that would be fundamental to the project. We would engage those property owners upon their permission. We would execute an agreement with them. If we, have those agreements, we'd be more than happy to supply them to the town to be on record. That's not an issue.
Only because if we grant a conditional use permit for the project, we need to have the documentation that all the avenues are followed for the letter of the law.
Yeah,
It's understandable.
Makes perfect sense.
And we've already secured all of these off right-of-way access agreements, so
Okay.
everything part of the project has already been secured, and we have that documentation.
So you can document them to the planning department as part of your final approval or submittal. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Board members, Kimberly?
Can I ask a question? Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
No,
John?
go ahead.
So I drove around and looked at all of these, and there are a lot of encumbrances in some of these tight neighborhoods.
Yes.
Are those difficult to deal with, the sheds and arborvitae's planted around your poles?
So we've actually had, we've addressed every issue so far
Okay.
with the homeowners. Both Ed and myself and the rest of the team have gone out there, met with them personally, and seen what, like you said, encumbrances.
Yeah.
Because obviously, people would like, you know, they like to plant things, and
Mhm.
that's fine. So we work with them, you know, if it's something that's gonna interfere with our project, it's something maybe we transplant it, or we remove it and we plant it afterwards. We offer mitigation plantings. We work with the property owners
Okay.
to ensure that, you know, both sides are happy.
Yeah.
And part of our process is, you know, we see the project from start to finish, and once the crews leave, we still meet with the property owners and ensure that our restoration commitments are kept.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Kimberly?
I was just gonna say, when you look at sheet 6 of 7, you're at the edge of our brand-new turf-installed soccer field, and I'm sure the school, you're gonna work with the school to stay off that soccer field.
Yes.
Awesome. That's
No
big, big one
excavator
for
on
me.
the
No,
soccer
no, it's brand new, beautiful field. Yes, so,
And we'll be working for structure 9 as well, the one that's located in the parking lot
In
of
the
the school.
parking lot, good.
We're gonna work with the school and try and complete that during like February vacation, so it's less of an impact on everybody and, you know, safer for our crews to operate and so forth.
That's not a definite, we're trying to work that in depending on scheduling.
You're gonna have to.
That's on the front of our.
You're not gonna have a choice, because when they put all 300 cars back, there's no room to drive around back there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Folks at the table here? No questions from anybody? All right, folks, do you have anything else you'd like to add at this time?
I don't think so.
Less said is good. All right, so I'm going to open a public hearing, and if someone wants to speak, you folks will have to relinquish the microphone. So at this time, I would like to open the public hearing. If anybody would like to speak regarding this application, now's your time.
it's on the table.
Come on up and state their name for the record.
Jim Chekaroff, 12 Bog Road.
We know you, Jim.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. Steve.
So I know that across my property, they replaced poles with the current wooden ones about 10 years ago. So now we're going through the process again. So I have a few questions. So,
We don't answer questions. You can make comments,
okay, so,
and we will enter them into the record.
okay, my comments are, one, how much of the footprint is going to change, whereas I either got something I gotta drive around or walk around or can't mow on my property. Will there be other stuff added to the property? I mean, we talked about adding gravel or whatever. I mean, I wanna know, my comment is, what will be changed to my property when this is all done? Is the footprint gonna be bigger? Are there gonna be more guy wires? Are there gonna be other restrictions that are not currently there? Basically, what happens to the land use and what do I use of the land use? The other question is, well, the other concern is, I believe what's currently there is either 132 or 165 kilovolt lines, and what are we changing to? Just for my own curiosity.
Okay. I'm sure they're listening and they're gonna come up and comment, Jim, so if you just,
Oh, that's good, okay. So, and what is the schedule as far as my property go? I know this is, you know, weather and it's a big project and all this stuff, I just wanna know.
so you're on Bog Road.
Yes.
Corner of Bog and Webb, right? The Webb runs on the other side?
Actually, it's Bell Road.
Bell Road, my wrong name.
What was your last name?
Chekaroff,
Oh,
C-H-A-K-U-R-O-F-F.
It's
So it is part of the
3311.
wetland there, and I know the other side of the road is, they'll definitely be going in there and temporarily filling things in to get access to it. And so my other question is, will that be permanently changed from what it looks at right now? So
Across the way? Or
Yes.
your property?
across the way, so if you're driving down Bog Road on the left-hand side, so between the second house on the left and where that new development is.
Okay. Anything else, Jim?
Nope.
It's probably gonna be
I
a
guess
one-night hearing,
this
so
is
you gotta get it
progress,
all
so-
out tonight.
So those are my concerns.
Thank you, Jim, for coming in.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak about this, regarding this application? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Invite the applicants back up to the microphone, please. So were you listening to his 7 questions? Because I wrote them down in case you didn't hear them.
Yeah, I remember some of them.
Well, we'll start with the first one. Footprints change around the base of the pole regarding mowing.
Yeah, so right now it's a wood pole. We're changing it to a steel pole. It's going to be slightly bigger of a diameter, but not anything significant. In terms of which structure specifically is in question, I'm not exactly sure if it's 25. That is a corner structure, so I'm assuming there's guy wires there now. And I don't believe there will be when we're done.
Do steel poles not get guy wires?
Usually not. Usually not. And if we end up doing like a more of a foundation underneath, then there won't be guy wires. But
Just as a note, I'm gonna sit with this gentleman here. I have a map,
Oh, you can-
map.
okay.
That way he can kind of look into what Travis is speaking to. I think that would only be,
You
fair.
do what you need to do
Okay,
in
just wanna make
the
sure.
in the gallery. If he wants you to sit next to him, you better ask him.
So like I said, it will slightly be bigger in diameter in terms of the guy wires. I don't believe that there is, but I can't say for sure on that. That would be a question for engineering.
Well, I'm sure you're gonna get back to this homeowner and give him the information prior to the installation of
Yeah,
any structures.
Yep.
Um,
Another question was the voltage. The voltage
Yeah.
is gonna stay the same. It's a 115 kV and it's gonna remain a 115 kV. In additional with this the structure replacements, we will be pulling a new OPGW line, which is like a smaller line that goes overhead the actual phases. It's one small little line. It's for shield protection. That's it.
When he asked you about other items added to the property, I think he's wanting to know if you're gonna leave gravel around it or if he's gonna be able to mow around it.
So right now we have it as a stone work pad. We do reduce that into a 30 by 60 at the end. But if the homeowner would like to reduce it to a smaller or have it fully restored, that's something we can work with him.
So that's
that
on the
project
record, and
service.
we're gonna leave it to you, work it out with the homeowner.
Okay.
We're not gonna require anything, you're gonna work that out with the homeowner.
Okay.
Schedule for the project for his area, do you know the schedule?
This is a upland structure. We were gonna have this segmented in 2 sections because some of this work is gonna be under a standard dredging, it's the BMPs and recommendations we got from Fish and Game put a pretty tight time restriction, so no work during the active season. So this structure will be one that we'll be doing in the spring, so anywhere between January and April 1st.
You don't have to pin yourself down too close, right? And he wants to know about access across Bog Road. There's a wetland area between the driveway for the new condo project and where you're going, and he wants to know if you're gonna make any changes to the wetlands over there.
No changes to the wetland, but the buffer zone area that will be have an access road, gravel.
On a highland area.
Yeah, it's an upland area. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kim.
So to clarify, the wetland impacts, so say at pool 24, those are identified as temporary.
Correct.
But the wetland buffer impact, I mean, that's vegetative clearing, but it's gonna rebound, right? You don't actually have that marked as temporary. The buffer impact's permanent?
Yeah.
Buffer is scoped for gravel.
Yep.
Oh, for gravel?
Yeah.
How wide?
16 feet.
Oh, wow. Okay. But the wetlands are temporary?
Wetlands are temporary.
Okay, that's right, okay.
I gotta tell you, around town, I've noticed that when you're doing these projects, building these roads between the towers, and I don't wanna use the word unsightly, but they're kind of unsightly. Because we used to have all vegetation under all our transmission lines, which you used to mow diligently. But now you've created this path of gravel roads, and it's like, I'm wondering, I know you gotta get there, but you're not doing any remediation on them, you're leaving them as I see. And steel poles last a long time. I mean, I'm wondering why you're leaving all these gravel roads. I know you don't want to take them out because you put them in, but I don't know. I think it's something that I just don't like looking at. Because I don't know if it invites kids when they take their pickup trucks and four-wheelers out or not, but I know you gate them all, but anybody with a half a sense can get around a gate. So I just want to, make that point for the record, that I think these roads you're building are a little bit unsightly. And please, everybody just.
Yeah, so what would be the operational impact of having the wetland buffer impacts be temporary clearing only? Exactly as you're doing in the wetlands.
Yeah, so in that case, we would probably mat that as well. That'd be our second option.
So not put into gravel.
Not put in the gravel. For the most part, we would rather do that than put in a stone access road and then have to pull it up afterwards and restore it.
Right, because if you look across all of these sheets, there is quite a bit of buffer you have to cross to get to the wetlands. And I understand that you've looked at this and tried to minimize all that crossing as much as possible, but we do look at a lot of the buffer impact, and I do agree with Tim, it's just jarring to see vegetation and then it's cleared. And 16 feet's pretty wide, so, and Tim, we do have the ability to say that as part of the conditional use permit conditions, because we're here to grant a conditional use permit, so, I don't know, am I the only one that feels that way about this? Anyone else?
There are other ways to construct roads. You can build gravel roads that have a hard surface with grass grows on them. They build them all the time. So maybe in future presentations or future something, you should be thinking about something other than 300 truckloads of 1.5-inch crush, 16 feet wide, traversing the town so you can get to a pole to put a steel pole in. What's the life of a steel pole?
Quite a while, but we also, there's other maintenance issues. The insulators don't last nearly as long. Sometimes you need maintenance on those OPGWs, and then we also have a veg maintenance crew who is working throughout the state who needs to get in there as well. Because that's really important. We have to maintain those veg and keep those clearances.
So the 16 feet wide is for construction access.
Correct.
What do you need for maintenance access? A line truck to go in there with a bucket and go up in the air?
It'd be similar equipment as the like erecting the pole, but some access roads are probably closer to 12 feet. I would say most construction reps, they 12 feet is like the minimum we can go. But it would only for an entire project, I think that would be pretty tough. Because sometimes they bring in like some cranes to erect those poles.
Right. But when they're done, you could tighten them up.
Yeah, tighten them up. Naturally, vegetation will kind of take over on the sides, but yes.
Until Brown shows up and mows it all.
Right, correct.
Then the gravel's showing.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
this is a massive amount of steel. Is there a staging area where all these towers are going to be sitting for months on end before
Yeah.
you bring them to each individual site?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is
So,
that a staging area in our town, or?
I'm not sure exactly where materials. I mean, they probably would come out of our like in-house area at Legends Drive and Hooksett.
Or are they trucked to each site individually and left near their,
Yeah, temporarily they will be, like they'll have a crew that will come and deliver the poles and then another crew that will come and then set up the poles.
I was only
But-
concerned if you had some site that's not shown on all these maps, that somebody's gonna have
Right.
15 feet of steel for 6 months.
Yeah, as of now, I'm not aware of any like different work site or lay down yard, other than what is already established at our Eversource facility.
Thank you.
My only thought is if the concern is more the aesthetic of the road, maybe it's visibility from, current right-of-ways, like street right-of-way, so we're not as concerned about the impact of the gravel being in the buffer where it's not visible. Is there some sort of a compromise where we're not saying you need to use matting and not have a gravel road for this whole section, but maybe in the areas that it's more visible, but
I think I'm gonna let them answer, but there's gotta be a differential between building a road that's there in perpetuity versus putting mats down every time they wanna go in and work.
I mean, one of the reasons that they're here is because it's in the wetland overlay, so these buffers are to protect the wetland. So for me, it's not as much the visual, although we notice it, right, when we drive, and we see this, all the changes. But like functionality, like the wetlands are gonna rebound better without a, 16-foot wide gravel road that's there versus a temporary matting road. And it's up to your means and methods. I would just say we'd prefer to see the impact be temporary to the buffer as opposed to be left in place permanently. So.
We also don't consider compacted gravel as a pervious surface, whereas the land right now is a pervious surface. Once you put the compacted gravel down, we classify that as impervious, which means we have sheet runoff and a lot of other things related, and we make all the applicants that come in here for all the projects tabulate sheet runoff pre and post development. So I'm just saying that if all these giant roads you're building have an impact after the fact, when you've left them and they're sitting there for the next 10 or 15 years. So at the bottom of this, what I'm thinking I would like to see is something like after you build your structures out and you're on the way out, that you restore something like 3 or 4 feet of each side with some loam and seed and leave a 12-foot road in place for future access. But don't leave these, because I was up on pasture just recently and the roads through the woods there, they're 20 feet wide up through there. They're massive amounts of gravel. I mean, you could pass vehicles on them, they're so wide. So I would like to see something that is a scaled down version of leaving those massive gravel paths through our town.
Throughout the whole project or
Well,
just within the buffer zone?
I don't drive up your roads and look at them all, but when I do see one, it hits me.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of time roads have straight edges. There isn't a straight edge anywhere. It's just wherever it gets to get the truck in.
where do we have authority here? We have authority just in the buffer, correct? Not
That's correct.
the-
Not on the uplands areas, because they can build roads on the upland areas any way they want.
Yeah.
So in terms of the buffer zone areas, and we two options, we can mat them, or we can build the road, and when we go to restore, we can top the entire road with topsoil and seed. So
You
that
can
would-
put enough on it to make it turn green and still drive on it.
Right,
It's like a farm road then.
right, yeah,
Go find some farmer and find out how they got through the fields over the years. They put gravel down and the grass grows on it, and it's hard enough for vehicles to drive on, but it's green again at
green
some
again,
point in life.
and somewhat pervious.
No, it's not pervious, ever. Once it's compacted gravel, even if you put the loam on it, it's not pervious. And we're not talking about pervious.
Yeah, yeah.
We're talking about impact and looks too as well. So just, it doesn't, I don't want to make it part of this application and kill you people with it tonight. I just want you to have a different line of thought in the future when you come back here with more projects. Maybe you don't want to give them that much leeway, but
I do. I think that we can leave it up to your choices as to, cost-wise or hassle-wise. I don't really care. We can leave it to means and methods, but I would say in the wetland buffer areas, and, that you're here for to receive the conditional use permit, I think that those impacts should be temporary. And to some degree, like either you put the matting down and it comes out and it rebounds naturally, or you put in gravel and then you restore it. Functionality-wise, I don't really have a preference either way, so that's up to you. But that's what I would say is a condition of the permit.
You should define restore.
Well, I mean, if they use timber matting and the timber matting's pulled out, it's gonna rebound. So it might look ugly in the beginning, but it'll rebound on its own. But it's,
No, gravel restore.
But if-
Pull the gravel out,
He's
loam it
saying
over.
gravel, loam, and seed over that. Are you okay with that, or you'd rather see the,
I don't love it, but it's gonna
Maps.
function.
So to-
It's gonna function as a buffer.
You don't
so-
have
so if you
to
think
remove
either
the
is fine, leave either of those two options?
I think so. I'm okay with that. I don't know if anybody else is, okay, but I'm fine with that.
Okay. So when Joanne is writing conditions for the approval, if they get their approval, you need to make sure you state your condition clearly.
I just,
Unless Joanne already got it.
just- okay. Do we need to ask them to read over the conditional use permit
Yeah.
findings?
Why don't you handle that for me?
Before we move on, is there any other questions that we need to?
I don't think you've already talked to your real estate folks, and they're gonna supply the documents to planning.
Okay.
Anybody from this board have any other questions before we have them review their conditional use permit? Do you have the verbiage with you in front of you in your answers to the questions?
Yes.
You have your answers to your
Just have-
questions?
Just
Scott?
one thing I want to bring up. So, with these past projects, you've been working with our office on these driveway permits, and it's always been told to us in engineering that these are temporary roads, so we've been allowing you to not have to put in the paved aprons. But now what I'm hearing is they're not just temporary, they're gonna be used again. So I'm kind of on the side of maybe we should be having paved aprons at these locations to protect the edge of the town roads, kind of thing.
If we were to go back in and use the roads, we'd be reapplying for temporary driveway permits.
And you'd be protecting the road edge with mats or the
With
gravel paths that
yeah.
you're doing.
The intent
Okay.
is that those aprons should be removed at the end of the project, as it's a temporary driveway permit, like you mentioned.
Okay.
But if we're to have future maintenance, then yes, we would
Though-
be reapplying.
Okay.
In the event of emergency, that might be a little different.
Mhm.
We'd obviously work with you after, but poles on fire, we might just kind of go in without the apron right there, but.
So Scott, are you asking them if they're gonna leave access to these roads permanently?
Well, so the permits we've been issuing, and Eric in the office has been dealing with permitting, he's the driveway permitter, so I know that what we were told is that everything is temporary, so they've been either putting mats at the road edge or building up a good solid gravel, so they're protecting the road edge. Which typically we require a paved apron at the road edge to protect our pavement. But since they were temporary, we were doing them as construction access temporary permits, so we weren't requiring the paved aprons. So if they're gonna be continually used, that's why I
Were you
mentioned.
did you require them to remove the gravel at the edge of the town road, at the end of?
They're restoring, the ones they're restoring, they're removing mats. If there's a ditch, they're restoring the ditch, so they
But if they
are.
came straight off the edge of the road and put a truckload of gravel in before the gate, are you making them take that gravel out up to the gate
That is.
as a temporary driveway?
Yeah, they're supposed to restore it in these temporary
And
situations.
they're doing that?
As far as I know, Eric just met with them the other day at the end of Montalona to talk about how they're supposed to restore that ditch line, so.
Okay. All right, Kim was gonna go over your conditional use permit questions, and we need you to answer the questions for the record.
Do we cover all the public first? Yeah, I think so.
I have a question about the dating.
Well, first of all,
Did we close the public hearing?
I closed the public hearing. I asked everybody else wanted to speak, and nobody spoke up.
I don't think we closed the public hearing.
I
think they
did
came
close the
forward
public
to
hearing at
answer.
7:26. I
We
closed
did.
it.
He did. Nobody
So-
spoke up.
So at this time, do you have something to say, sir? Are you in a butter?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to reopen the public hearing at this time.
Only have one question.
Well, I have to have your name for the record.
Walter Dignan.
Come on up to the microphone, please, sir. Walter. What's your last name, sir?
Dignam, D-I-G-N-A-M.
Thank you for coming. And what's your question, sir?
Well, I live across the street from a new lot that's been sold about 2 years ago, and the easement, the deed of right easement to the power lines has been widened. There's no gate. They took the gate out. They took field stones and moved them, and the thing is like 5 times what it was originally. And the people who bought the 4-acre lot are using it as a driveway for a cordwood business. And I believe that Mr. Shepherd spoke to the individual, and I was just wondering if there will be a gate when they're done working down there.
Does
So
this-
it's
does that gate-
map 4, lots 63 and 65. It goes right,
Does this
doesn't go
gate-
between them. It's on the new lot 65.
Did this lot gate access a pole structure for the overflow?
Oh, yeah, it's that, well, it's, yeah, I mean, the power lines go right through the Hayfield property. Probably seen all of that, all the way down across the river.
What street are you on?
Pardon me.
What street
That's
are
New
you-
Boston Road, I'm sorry.
Oh.
So can we find out what he's talking about on one of the maps, Joanne, please?
It's map 4, on map 4, lot 63 and 65. 65.
Okay, give us a second to see if we can find it. We'll look at on New Boston Road.
2
Down-
or 3. It's either on 2 or
So
3.
if it's Hayfield's property, it's across from,
Oh, it's not Hayfield's property.
I say, oh, it's not Hayfield's property?
No, it belonged to Schricker.
Schricker.
It belonged to Schricker.
Okay.
The whole piece
Yeah,
did,
it's
and he
on
sold a
sheet
piece.
2.
Sheet
Did you
2?
find it?
It's sheet 2 and sheet.
Sheet 2?
Sheet 2 and sheet 3.
Oh, okay.
Somebody show me where it is. Am I on the right sheet?
Schricker owns this property. So it merges over here. So I would
Check
like this
that.
map.
The gate was on Esker's property.
You're saying sheet 3 now?
Sheet 3, yeah.
Oh, okay.
What goes between sheet 2 and 3?
Yeah.
So
So
I see
we,
now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
you spoke with the code enforcement officer about this already?
Yes. Yeah, he told the fellow that he couldn't
And-
use it for a driveway for a
And do you know
house.
who constructed the hole to get in there? A contractor or Eversource?
A fellow by the name of Jim Dow, who operated a cordwood business on that property.
So I'm.
Mr. Schricker owned it, and Schricker, his son, and a couple of workers are the ones that moved everything with bulldozer that belonged to Mr. Dow. He's since sold his property. Mr. Schricker since passed away, and then this lot 65 has recently been purchased about 2 years ago.
All right, so I'm not certain that this, unless the power company did this work to get in there, I don't know that this is germane to tonight's discussion, because
Well, my question is it going to be gated when they're done?
we don't, if the power company did not make this hole to get in there, this is a matter that you're gonna have to handle with the
Oh,
code
the
enforcement
the
officer.
road goes all the way down to the wetlands. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, well, as much as I'd like to keep it in the discussion, it doesn't sound like this is germane to this application.
When
Oh,
was the
well,
work
he mentioned
completed?
gated, you know, that's
Right.
why I brought it up. That's the only reason why I brought
Okay.
it up.
When was this work completed?
Years ago.
Oh, years ago. Okay.
I've been there 40 years. This is
Okay.
probably 30 years ago, 25.
I didn't know
30
if this
years
was like new and I needed to go
No.
to
I
see
don't
if
think
they
it's
were
got anything to do with this project.
no
All right.
driveway permit.
It's not on the project.
It's not
Mr. Dignan, your comments have been added to the record tonight,
Thank you.
and I would appreciate it if you would follow up with the code enforcement officer and the town, at town staff level, and see if they can give you some answers on this about gates and such, because
Okay,
I don't believe this is related to the application tonight for the pole replacement project.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's why I showed up.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Good evening.
Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing again, if no one else wants to speak.
You sure?
Anyone else want to speak before I close it a second time?
Last chance, Kathy.
I'm good.
Okay, so now we're back to the applicants. Could you please come back up to the table, folks? So in your own report, you supplied, it starts on page 4,
Yeah,
15.4.1.4.1.
yep. Wait, let's not make them read this whole thing.
No, we're gonna waive the reading of it. You're just gonna ask the question, and they're gonna answer affirmatively, yes or no.
Just go, I want to go on the record. I read all of this beforehand, so I agree with what the applicant has proposed. So the use is 15.4.1.4.1, the use is specifically authorized in the ordinance as a conditional use.
Yes.
15.4.1.4.2, if completed as proposed, the development will comply with all requirements in this section, specific conditions or standards established in the ordinance.
Yes.
Yes. 15.4.1.4.3, the use will be compatible with the neighborhood, adjoining or abutting uses in the area.
Yes.
Yes. 15.4.1.4.4, the use will not have a substantial adverse impact on vehicular or pedestrian safety.
Yes.
Yes. 15.4.1.4.5, the use will not have a substantial adverse impact on the appearance and visual quality of the surrounding neighborhood.
Yes.
Yes. 15.4.1.4.6, the use will be adequately serviced by necessary public utilities and community facilities.
Yes.
Okay.
That is it. So,
Thank you, Lindsay.
So, and just for the record, so that it's noted that the applicant stated yes, and that is in support of the answers that are in their application.
Thank you for your service. Okay, do we have any other questions for the applicants tonight? If not, do you have anything else you'd like to add, or would you like to get out of here?
I make a motion that we grant a conditional use permit as based on the evidence provided in the application packet, with the condition that the impacts to the wetland buffer be temporary and restored in a manner in which the use see fit, restored or using temporary means and methods.
Tim, I have a question.
Please,
Did we accept this application?
you know, kind of got going.
Do we have to?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
I should have read my,
We do?
should have read my paperwork. So before we vote, we're going to go backwards, and we are going to make something for the record. We forgot to do, we did not create a record.
Table the motion.
So just withdraw your motion.
I'll withdraw my motion. I make a motion that the application is found complete and has no regional impact, and there are no waivers,
Ready to review?
and ready to review.
Second.
Thank you, Phil, for catching us on that. Okay, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. So now that we've accepted the application, let's vote on it.
All right, I make a motion that we vote on the conditional use permit as previously noted
To approve.
to be approved.
If I can just offer one additional condition, I think I heard that we want copies of the access rights documentation submitted to town staff.
I'm sorry?
I believe
Yeah.
the additional condition that those access rights
Easement
documentation
documents.
be submitted to town staff.
Okay. Did you accept the amendment?
Yes, and I would also add that, yes, there were recommended conditions of approval number 1 through 6.
Yeah, I'll
Strike
second.
number 6.
I'm sorry, strike number 6.
That's an old one that at a previous meeting we decided not to do anymore because
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Okay, Kimberly's got a motion to approve the conditional use permits. Does anybody want to second it?
I did.
Okay, Phil. Okay, any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Thank you once again for a very well-prepared.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Doing a good job. Okay.
I'm gonna do another business.
My business? Okay. Can you give me copies of that for my reference? Oh, I probably have. That's right. Okay.
Joanne, how come you didn't catch that?
I don't know.
You let me go right through there and make a mistake.
She was a little flustered with her alarm.
Jumped
Yeah,
right
the
in.
alarm.
I'm all
The alarm
flustered.
threw off.
Wait a minute,
Turned
Joanne's sleeping over there.
No, you missed the whole thing. The alarm
The
was going
drama.
off, and then
The
I
drama.
fixed it, and then it went off again, and then it
We had
went
the
off
alarm
third
drama and
time.
I missed it?
Yeah, you did.
Oh,
Yep.
God, how terrible.
At least the police didn't show up.
Yeah, that's fine.
I have one item that's not listed on here.
I'm listening.
We had a person come in who is.
Hold it, time out. Gentlemen, could you take your after
Yeah.
discussion out in the parking lot?
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Mark.
We had a property owner come in the last week or so, who is currently going before the zoning board for approval for an accessory dwelling unit on a house that he's proposing to build. The house is located on Serry Drive. He actually owns 2 lots, and his daughter owns a 3rd lot. And Serry Drive was an old plan that was approved in 1989, and it had 2 amendments to it for further lot line adjustments, and I think there were 2 additional lots at one point. But the owner at the time, in 1989, the planning board talked with the owner about, or he was the developer, about putting in a cistern. And the board didn't seem like they felt it was needed because it was only 3 lots at the time. However, the fire department did say that they want it. So one of the conditions of approval was that a cistern would need to be located. And I laughed when I read the minutes because it said at the time it would cost about $18,000. Now they're $100,000. So anyway, the new owner is going to the zoning board at their next meeting asking for the special exception for the ADU. And he's in a dilemma now because he has 3 lots and he needs either to put in a cistern or he's offered up to do the sprinklers for the 3 homes. So I went to the fire department and I asked them if they had an issue with that, if the cistern condition was removed by the planning board, would the fire department be okay, or would they want the cistern? And they wrote back to me and said that they don't have a problem with that as long as he puts the sprinkler system in. So I'm here to find out what the planning board thinks about this so that this can go forward either way.
Let's back up on one thing now. It's an approved subdivision from when?
From 1989.
Now, do subdivisions have any expiration dates?
No, not, it's been recorded and the road's been built and there's, I think there might be like 1 house or something on there, but
There's
it's
1 house on
one
Surrey.
house.
I don't know if it was part of that subdivision or if it was a little stub that existed prior to the subdivision.
But they did build the roadway.
And they're all lots of record that have road frontage?
Yes.
The road's built, the road is there in front of their properties.
Yeah, it's Surrey.
Where is Surrey?
It's off of Leech Hill.
Okay, I know
It's basically
where
at
it
the
is.
top of Leech Hill.
Yeah,
It's a cul-de-sac.
I know where that is now.
So it's more of an enforcement issue that like the subdivision was completed, COs were issued, houses built, like nobody ever made sure that the cistern was put in.
No, they
That
never.
was
No,
like-
apparently.
None of the houses have been built.
Oh, nothing's
Yeah,
been built.
nothing's
Yeah.
been
So
built.
it's
I
still,
think the one house that's at the bottom
Okay.
of Surrey wasn't part of that subdivision.
Okay.
I think it was an existing house.
And apparently, around 1994-ish, there was a bankruptcy paperwork in the file. So that was when the market was crashing.
Yeah.
So most likely the developers just folded up and went away, and it just sat there.
so do we have a bite at the apple for anything on this 3-lot subdivision?
So you could request that the cistern needs to go in, or you could allow them to do the sprinkler systems, and then they will put in the 3 houses. One of those may have an accessory dwelling unit, depending on if the zoning board approves it.
Now, is that Conservation District, Sterry Drive?
I think it is.
Yes, it
Leach Hill
is.
is conservation at the
Yeah.
end. So those are 5-acre lots.
Yeah,
They're
they're
big
larger
lots.
lots. I
That's
have.
5 acres.
One of them's substantial. The driveway, I drove up it the other day, it's like a mile long. It feels like a mile anyway.
The driveway's in and done?
It's roughed in.
All right, so that's
They don't have their driveway permit issued yet. They just left it in. It's not, I shouldn't say issued, it's not approved or anything. Eric's been working with the
NFPA,
builder.
right?
Yep, yeah, Eric's been working with him.
One of the lots is 31 acres. One is 5 acres, the other is 5.2 or 5.02. So they're larger lots. I don't,
Is there a note on that recorded plan that says,
the note says cistern site, and it
So-
points to a site.
my, like, just one person's opinion, if the fire department's good with sprinklers, I'm good with sprinklers, but what do they need to do to clean up that recorded plan? If the board's okay with that, then do they need to prepare a new plan and record something that doesn't have that condition, or how do they clean that up for their purposes in the future?
I was
We
thinking-
we would deem it a non-material change, which wouldn't require any
Right.
plans.
Okay.
And then we could always record
A decision
like
of
a
some sort.
decision letter at the registry, so if in case, there was any down the road.
Because if somebody in the future goes and is doing a title search for these folks, and now there's a restriction on that plan,
I don't think a decision letter is adequate, because a decision letter gets lost in the file. I think a new cover sheet for the plan with new conditions would be required. Wouldn't you think so, Joanne? You don't have to do the whole plan, you just do the cover sheet, which has the restrictions. An amended cover sheet to attach to the plan roll. You put a letter in there, and the letter just goes like this one day,
Well,
and nobody remembers it.
no, we would record it.
Yeah, it would be, so
A
when you do
document
the
that
title
would be
search, it's like
recordable.
show
yeah,
up.
as long, that would be I'm fine with whatever the fire department's good with, as long as we can make sure that there's something recorded that makes it official.
Bill?
Yeah, I think
That house was existing. the one that
along
they did.
that line,
That's the only
what
one
we've
that's
been
there right now.
dealing with lately is when we've had that issue, if the property owner volunteers to put sprinklers in, then there's been no requirement having, the pond or the cistern or whatever. So that's consistent with what we've been doing.
And he
I don't
has,
see it as an issue.
we talked to him about that, and he did agree to put in the sprinklers.
Does he own all 3 lots?
He owns 2 and his daughter owns 1, so they would both be considered the applicants when they go to the zoning boards.
So if they sell the 3rd lot, now that whoever buys it is
Rise
burdened
the
with
condition.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only
Right, that's why I think it should be
Bill?
recorded.
Yeah, the only question though that I have is, it's one thing for the planning board to make a decision when we have an application that we're dealing with. When we don't have an application, what we basically have is a question coming in from the owner, property owner, through you to the planning board. So we don't have, I don't know, what we have is anything official to act on. We've had nothing that's been noticed.
No, Joanne, I think we're gonna back this up to the next month, or our next scheduled
Do
meeting.
you want me to, schedule it as a hearing and notify abutters?
I mean, a modification to the
Yeah.
existing subdivision approvals, they're looking for a modification to that, that's really gonna be just modifying the notes. mean, you're not gonna
I
do plans.
believe that we don't have to require a butter notification.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What we
agree.
need to do is have the applicant come to you, Joanne, with a formal request, something in writing or on an application form, for a change of the plan from a cistern to sprinklers, requesting that it be a non-material change.
Without an engineered plan?
Yeah.
We don't need engineered plans.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a basically administrative decision to swap one for the other. We already have the fire department's input, include that in the report.
Okay.
And if we have something actually, as Phil stated, to read and vote on, that would be the proper way to handle it.
Okay.
Good evening, Barbara.
Good
For
evening,
the record, what's your name?
Barbara Griffin.
Thank you for
My
Barbara.
apologies to the board for being late. I just came from a meeting that I walked into and was announced I was running as the chair left. So I'm sorry I'm late.
Well, I was late too, so we're good. So,
And I forgot
You-
to text you.
I
Yeah.
I'm
noticed
too
that.
busy. Tonight's been kind
we're
of
supposed to text
weird.
you and tell you not to show up because we're almost done?
Probably.
Yes.
Well, we'll
I
go have a
didn't come
beer or
first.
something. So, Everyone concur that we need to do this officially as Phil stated, and we'll do it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then we'll record a
Well,
document.
when and if a decision is made, it would be recorded.
Okay.
And I think, just not speaking for Phil, but the reason for us doing this is not that we're trying to like make these people jump through any hoops.
Yeah.
We just wanna, for their
a
protection, they
record.
have a clean,
Right.
decision, and
Yeah.
it just helps them out in the future, so it cleans everything up.
Okay.
Yeah. And there is a process that we have to go through to
Yeah.
act on something.
Yeah.
We just can't act on things because somebody asks a
Can't
question.
just do whatever
Right.
we
Make a
want.
decision.
Yeah.
Joanne, we have rules of procedure on the table.
Yes, so I cleaned them up again, and I thought you might have time tonight to look through it.
I don't want to look through it. How many changes did you make?
Well, I made the changes that you all asked for last week, and then I proofread it, and it changed a lot of adding commas and things like that, so it looks like more than it really is, but
So do we need to go over the whole document again?
I think,
No.
I was gonna say, I think you should.
Move quick before I speak.
It was the order of presentation that I think maybe had the biggest
Yes,
changes,
that was
right?
the biggest,
Like,
yes.
So that's page 6 of 9 into 7 of 9.
So let's have a vote on it.
Why don't you take a look at that to make sure it's the way you want it? It's,
Now, when you're putting your foot in the wrong spot now, we're
wait,
trying to
it's
get this
not that
over.
one, it's the, here it is, it's on page 7. And this is not for, opening the meeting or anything, this is just strictly acting on a hearing.
On H, you need the board, you need a D so that the board doesn't deliberate.
So it's order of presentation during a public hearing on an
Which
application.
kind of board?
I know, it's very boring, I know. I'll do that.
No, that's the animal.
Sorry,
think you heard her.
very silly.
Okay,
So that's just a little correction of it.
I got that. So do you want me to read it,
Do we
or?
want to use the word public hearing?
I think that is
Yes.
that the appropriate word?
problem with this.
It is a public
It's a public
hearing.
hearing on the application.
Yeah, on the application.
So then there needs to be a chair declares the public hearing open for questions from abutters and public.
No,
this is
you have to
open-
actually open the hearing. I see what you mean, because that's when you actually open it. Okay.
Right, that's,
Chair declares public hearing open for abutters and public.
But then I think, Joanne, B through I needs to go down and happen after G, because you've got
Yeah.
open, and then, because subletter D, E, F, and G is all about the public hearing.
Right.
And then all of that, what did I say, B through I, after the public, happens after the public hearing,
Correct.
or however, but that's, so it's in the wrong spot,
See, then we need to change our terminology in the course of this meeting, because
Right.
we open a public hearing for the public to speak. That's a public hearing.
and that's on
Whatever
the
process-
agenda. That's the agenda that's posted on the town calendar, is public hearing on blah, blah.
So
we
you're
need to-
having a public meeting, and
There you
within the
go.
public meeting, you have the hearings for each application. You open and close, you open and close, you open and close. But your meeting is a public meeting.
So maybe we need to state, chair declares public meeting open.
A, right, should be meeting.
Well, that should be,
That happens at the beginning,
that's
that
a
happens at 7
different
o'clock.
section
That's a
that
different
that's
section,
in.
that's
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Joanne,
That's meeting order.
does the, not OEP anymore, but whatever they are, the planning board handbook, like that the state puts out, do they
Yeah, they
have
probably do.
They
I should
might
just
have
look in
the-
We're
there.
not voting on it.
particular language?
No, that's right.
So Jerome, what if we use your words in your own action on your agenda on the first page of today's completeness review, site plan review hearing? Why don't we, the chair declares completeness review / site plan review hearing open. Because that's what's in our document right now on the first line of every one we do.
What is it called?
It's on your own, look at your agenda, please. Line
I
1,
am.
completeness review, site plan review hearing.
Oh, okay.
So chair declares completeness review / site plan review hearing open.
or it could be a subdivision, or it could be a lot line adjustment. It's different for each one. That's-
Application open, can we call them all applications?
If you go back to your meeting order,
What page do we have? Oh.
meeting order is on page 5. So you refer to this at old business, just sort of like our agenda. Old business, new applications, other public hearings. So do you need to tie in paragraph 8 as to general procedures to the application?
It is in an odd place, I think. But that's how it was set up to begin with.
Does it have to be in our bylaws? Do we have to get this specific? No. Can we just cut it out?
Actually,
That's one way to solve
I mean, I don't think we vary all that widely in how
Why
we do
don't we
No,
table
very
this
simple.
again?
Meeting
I will look
order
at the handbook and
determined
see
by
what
the chair.
maybe we don't need
The
an
state
order of
handbook.
presentation.
Like
Yeah, I
Larry's
think
has in
rules.
it, because that's a guidebook.
We can take number
Just a
8 and
straight
strike the
eight?
whole section.
Can we table this again? And I'm going to look in
Well,
one
when are we
other
gonna say the
place.
Pledge of Allegiance? Brian's getting pretty
It'd be the
antsy.
new year, we're talking about earlier. January.
New Year might be optimistic, Brian.
Brian,
I'm hopeful.
You may have to run for re-election again before we have to get this
Never
started.
not be the case.
Let's table it again, I want to do it right.
So I wanna see the word public hearing disappear from A and G,
No, we strike section 8.
or strike
But that's
section
what
8.
they're called. Why do
And
you
then
want
find
to
a
take it
different
away?
word for when we let the public speak. It's not gonna be a public hearing anymore.
No, when you let the public speak, that's just opening it up to the public. But when you say to me, okay, are we ready? And then we read whether they're complete or not, that's a public hearing.
So let's go to
Well-
Jim from the Board of Selectmen. What do you have? You have, and Phil, former, and Barbara. It's called public comment?
But their agendas, they hold public hearings, but only for special things.
Phil
Right.
wants to say something.
Yeah, the thing that we have to consider, okay, because
Excuse me, David, for not recognizing you as a former selectman before.
We have a quorum of former selectmen. Does that give us power to do anything or no?
Tell me to not show up again and it'll be over.
Try and let Phil get the word out here.
No, when we have a continuation, okay, as an application comes in and then it gets continued, okay? We always have the concern when you say that you're gonna close the public hearing. Then we have a concern that if you close the public hearing to the public, you're not really closing the public hearing because then you're saying that you're closing it, but it has to be continued to the next. So I just wanna make sure that we're not gonna get into some kind of a mix-up with all of this.
We close it for that meeting and we reopen it at the next meeting.
Well, just our terminology, I don't want our terminology to wind up coming back to bite us after we approve these and realize that,
Well, in light of that, Phil, you have to close the public hearing because if you vote on an application at the end of the meeting, you can't vote on it with the public hearing open.
no, I
General
understand
comment.
that. But when we continue, so we have an applicant comes in, okay?
I understand that.
We have the public, we have it open to the public. If that's a public hearing, how are we going to handle that? It's probably just semantics.
It is.
But we brought up, it's been mentioned before that if you close the public hearing, then, and it gets continued, do you have to renotice? That's what, those are some of the things that have come up in past meetings. So if we're gonna make these changes, the only thing I would like to see that it's all clear and we don't create an issue later on.
Fix them again next year.
Whatever.
Fix them every couple of years. All right, what are we doing with this, Joanne? You want to wait another
I'd
meeting?
like to look at the state handbook and see if they have it in any sort of format. But I just want you to realize that we are at a public meeting, but each of your hearings are separate public hearings for those items. So it's not one and the same.
Okay.
Right.
Joanne, you have another item, appointment to
Wait,
the,
I have one more comment. Joanne, we still have selectmen in here, and we still have chairmans and hises. I know it looks like you fixed chairman, but we still have a lot of hises and a lot of selectmen.
Oh, okay.
You
I'll
can just do a
fix
general
that too.
search for those.
thank you.
I think on
This
this
is-
copy, it's sort of hard to see that some of them are crossed out.
Yeah, next time I'll do it in color.
Okay, we done with this for now?
Big enough, so it's all-
Yes.
I think this horse is still
Sorry.
kicking.
Yeah, it's still kicking.
And you told me we're almost done.
Full size.
Okay, other business appointment of the
No.
planning board member to the EDC. Who wants to volunteer to be on EDC?
Jim.
He is already on it.
I think you have to say when it meets. When does it meet?
It meets the first Wednesday of every month at 6 o'clock. And they're usually only an hour long, most times.
Never trust
Does anybody who is a voting member, elected voting member, want to volunteer to be on this EDC?
I would love to, I don't have the bandwidth.
You what?
I would love to, but I don't have the bandwidth to. I don't want to overcommit.
Budget committee's going
Not
Your budget's
till,
gonna be over soon.
January. No, maybe March, really. They're not.
Do we have to have a planning board member at EDC? Is it a
No.
requirement?
It's, I mean, it's part of their makeup, but it's not mandatory.
Okay, so if we don't have someone there, it's not a problem. If nobody wants to volunteer, it's not a problem.
If no one wants to volunteer, you can't force them,
Right.
so
Well, that,
it just
a few of us
remains
had our arms
open
twisted.
until somebody else comes along.
That's why I came to the meeting. I wanted to make sure I wasn't nominated.
We tried to nominate Brian in abstention, but I wouldn't let it happen because he wasn't here to decline.
Exactly.
All right, so we're gonna officially have no one go to EDC, is that the rule from this group here? Okay, that's what it is.
For now.
Joanna.
Motion to adjourn.
No, I've got one thing, and Kimberly apparently has something. Oh, I thought you were
Yep,
doing
sorry,
this.
just a display.
Oh, you're playing with the rubber band.
Sorry.
Okay, folks, do we all remember an application recently down on Colonial Plummer where the big house is and the gentleman wanted to put his logging business behind his house and add a new driveway on the right-hand side of the property? Does everybody remember that application?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, I was very clear and made it part of our conditional approval that they abandoned the second driveway.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I drove by there the other day, and it's clear as day that there are truck marks coming out of the second driveway, going across the front yard, and they're using both driveways now.
Well, I remember a few months ago, I received an email from the engineer asking me about that because the owner wanted to continue to use it, and he thought that the approval allowed him to do that. And
Why, I don't speak English at these
We had a
things anymore?
discussion
The
with him,
engineer.
and
Yeah.
he even
Yeah,
said
I remember
that
that.
he wasn't gonna, he was gonna loam it, as a matter of fact, he said.
So I would like you to have our zoning, or you need to, as the planning director, somebody has to contact this applicant and state that the driveway has to be abandoned as agreed to at the planning meeting and as stipulated as a condition of approval, or we'll have him back and what's the word, Phil?
We revoked the site plan?
We can revoke his site plan for non-compliance with the conditions.
Can I,
Please,
Joanne,
Barbara.
what was the engineer's query and what was your response?
so he was double checking about whether that, had changed or whatever. And I said, no, he can't leave it there. He's not supposed to be using it.
And that
He
was the
said, I
last you
thought
heard of
so. And then he was relaying the
Okay,
message back to
but that was
the
the
owner.
last contact your office.
Yeah,
had.
that was a couple months ago, more
No.
than a couple.
You have never informed us of that prior to tonight.
No,
So-
there was no reason to.
Okay. till I had to find out on my own and bring it to the meeting. So, you know, if they want to do this, they need to,
Well, nobody goes down that road, so.
no, is that how we do it? We're gonna ignore applicants
No,
on
I'm
roads
saying
that
they
people don't
they
live on?
do it because no one's,
Yeah.
they think no one's watching. But they don't know that Tim's out there.
Yeah.
Patrolling.
The problem is I remember this stuff. So
Okay.
I would like to, with the board's permission, request that Joanne contact the applicant and get this matter resolved.
That'd be a good idea to also review the plan, the approval.
Joanne, would you please? Could you, is there conditions of approval on a document you could email us?
Yes,
Okay, could you send it to my town, my sewer email address?
sewer, okay.
Because I don't open emails on my personal email because of the right to know laws.
Oh, I
Nobody's
didn't
going in
know
my
that.
own- Don't send me anything on my own email.
Okay.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
we all done before Phil gets his turn in the corner? Please.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Phil, seconded by Kimberly. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Abstention? Okay, we're good.